Alrighty, so we are going to make sure that we have a fresh install of Valheim. So manage browse local files. In my case, I've already got it open and it is empty. So we are going to guarantee that it is a fresh install by going into properties, local files, verify integrity. It's going to say, hey, they failed to validate, reacquire. So once this gets done downloading, we have a fresh install of Valheim, and then we're going to use what is found in the Unity project guide, which will be linked in the video description, Asset Ripper, and a few other things to kind of rip the game for us and get started in modding and setting up a Unity project for ourselves. So luckily, this game is small, so we're just going to wait for this to finish. Here we go. It's stuck at 73%. Pause the video here and skip to the end. Okay, so we're back. We have the full download ready to go. And if we just click refresh here, we're going to see that we have all the files. So on the Unity project, here we see that the stuff that we need, of course, is going to be Asset Ripper, ILSpy, Unity Hub. But the main thing that we're going to need right at this moment is going to be the BepInEx pack Valheim. Okay. So we're going to go here, have this ready to go. And we have our folder ready to go. We're going to open up Asset Ripper. And in my case, I can just type it in and hopefully get the exe, which is right here. This is the GUI 64 version on the site. So we should have that ready, set up, and ready to go. Let's see. Asset Ripper, you can also go here. And I'll show you exactly which one I'm talking about. When you click the link that was in that mod guide, we're going to go down here. I chose the Asset Ripper GUI Win64 zip. I extracted it. I have the exe. I searched for it. You can also just double click it and get it open. So, following along with what it says, the first thing that you really need to do is open Asset Ripper, drag the whole folder in here. This is kind of the default stuff, okay? So instead of dragging it in, I'm just going to say open folder, and we're going to copy this path of our default Valheim install and paste it in here. And I'm going to say select folder. This process is typically pretty fast, so we don't have to pause the video or anything. We're going to get all of these files. So next, you choose where you want this to go. I actually have a quick pin on where I want mine to go already. So it's going to go into this Valheim modding folder. I'm going to create it right here. I'm going to say export all files. And just like we did before, I'm going to copy my path and paste it in here and say I want it right here. Okay, so select folder. The export is usually very fast. It doesn't take too long. The whole game does take a little while, so might have to pause the game and pause the video and speed this up for you. Alrighty, once you get complete, we get a nice little prompt here. It says export complete. Just click refresh here. You should now have a Valheim folder. If we go and look, we have Valheim assets, project settings, unknown assets, basically everything that the game says. So when you pull this into Unity Hub, this is going to be whatever the folder name is here. I do recommend changing this away from Valheim to something that means a little bit more to you. Or you can just leave it as Valheim and leave it wherever you want as long as you know where it's going to be. But if you end up doing multiple rips of the game, it can kind of get confusing if everything says Valheim. Okay, so I'm going to change mine away from Valheim, and I'm going to say Hearth and Home Azu Valheim. Okay, just something completely different. So now, the next step is to open up ILSpy and set it to 7.3 Visual Studio. So we're going to open up ilspy.exe. We're going to get this nice little fancy window here. Just like it says, set it to 7.3 at the top, MS Core Lib and all this. So we're going to actually go to the default Valheim install, wherever that is. The quick way to get there is just to right click and go to Manage Browse Local Files. I happen to have mine pinned, so I'm going to use my pins rather than anything else. So it says set it there, select all assemblies in the list. If any, right click and click remove. So anything that is already here, you're going to right click and click remove. What I did is click the bottom one, shift, click, and click the top one. We're going to remove all these. Okay, we don't want any of these in this list. Now, what the guide fails to mention is that you need to go and install BepInEx Pack Valheim. It mentions it at the very beginning. It says, hey, you're going to need it. It doesn't tell you exactly when. So, what we're going to do is jump to the BepInEx Pack for Valheim web page, and we are going to manually download this. So, manual download. We're going to get a nice little thing here. I'm going to open this up. We have a zip file. I'm going to tell this zip file to go in my Valheim modding area just so I know where it is, what it's doing, okay? So I'm going to just move this here. It is going to say it's going to copy. I'm going to delete it, and then I'm going to extract. So I have 7-zip installed. I'm going to tell it to extract to a specific folder, which if we click refresh, we should see that folder now. So what it wants us to do is get the unstrip core lib and drag the ms core lib into ILSpy, into the assemblies list. So we're going to do that. We're going to go into BepInEx Pack Valheim, unstrip core lib, and then we're going to grab the ms core lib, which should, I just passed it, it's right here. Drag and drop that into ILSpy. So the next step is, it says select all assemblies starting with the assembly underscore. So we're going to go back into the game install. Okay. And it says assembly underscore right click and save code. So this is a little bit not helpful. Okay. So following along, select all assemblies starting with assembly underscore right click, save code, save solution, and then Valheim asset scripts folder. It doesn't say where you're going to get these assembly underscores. Okay. Doesn't mention any of that. It says Valheim managed folder. So we're going to scroll up. I have mine pinned. Okay. So Steam Apps, Common Apps, Valheim. Valheim data managed is where we're going to get these. So every single one of these, assembly Valheim and up. Okay. All the ones underscore, not the assembly C# because it has a hyphen, not an underscore. We're going to drag these here and put it into ILSpy. All right. So what it wants us to do is right click, save code, save solution into your Valheim asset scripts folder. So where we installed and fresh installed all of that stuff, so we're going to our Valheim RIP assets and scripts folder. Okay. And now it's going to say save code. We need the code here. And we're going to right click, save code, just like it says. And it says to drop it in this folder here. So we're going to copy that path and paste it in here. And we're going to click save. And this is the prompt that it does mention. It says the directory is not empty. File will be overwritten. Are you sure you want to continue? It does say to click yes because this is exactly what we want. So we're going to say yes. It's going to decompile everything for us, right? And it says now go to Windows Explorer, go to the Valheim asset script folder, and delete the solution file. If you're following along with me properly, that should already be open. I'm going to delete that file and say yes. Now, once you reach this point, it tells you to do star. Okay. And we're going to do a little hyphen asterisk thing. I don't know really what the correct term for that is. Apostrophe. It doesn't quite look like an apostrophe, but you know. And it says type it in, hit enter, and delete each result that we get. You should get roughly 9 items, which is what mine says here. So once again, click the lowest item, scroll up to the top, hit shift, click again, and delete. It says, do you want to delete these 9 items? Say yes. And wait for that particular process to happen, which might take a minute. I don't know why it's taking so long. There it goes. All right. And then it says properties. And we're going to search. We hit enter. It also says, into the search bar, type in properties, folders, search the results. Okay. And it says and delete all the property folders. Okay, so same thing, click the bottom and click the top, and we're going to delete the properties. So asked in Discord is, why are we deleting these? This is the primary cause for most of the errors in the recent rip of Valheim. It keeps all the default properties of what they set up in Unity because they changed away from the way they were initially doing it, which you could easily just asset rip the game, pull it into Unity, be done. Now, they've added a few things to their scripts. They've also added a few things to the properties of their project in Unity, so we are going through and deleting these. We are making sure that we are A-OK when we rip this, and hopefully, cross fingers, have no errors by the time it hits Unity. So now, it says in the scripts folder, search for utils.cs. Okay, so I'm just going to hit the back arrow here. We're in the scripts folder. We are going to look for utils.cs, which I am filtering by. We have this file here. You can choose to open this in any editor that you choose. I do recommend at least Notepad++, not regular Notepad, mainly because it will have syntax highlighting for you. It'll be easy to see things. Mine is going to open in VS Code, and by syntax highlighting, I mean we get these nice little colors, more or less. It's not going to be a white, plain, black and white text file. So, it says now, in the script folders, search for heightmap.cs, open the file. I actually skipped a step, so we're going to go back and fix the heightmap.cs in just a second. It says change compression level.fastest to system.io.compression level.fastest. I'm going to copy that because that's a mouthful, right? So we have compression level.fastest. So I'm going to hit Control F. I believe it's Control F also in Notepad++. If you're using it, Notepad is kind of the general shortcut for finding things. So we're going to type in compression level.fastest. And we see that it's here. And it doesn't look like we have any more results because we have 1 out of 1. Luckily, mine will tell me that. So we're going to go right here. We're going to highlight this. And I'm hitting Control V to paste that. So we now have system.io.compression level.fastest. Hitting Control S to save the utils file. And I'm going to close it out. All right. And because I skipped a step, I'm actually going to go back to the heightmap.cs step. So height, H-E-G-I map.cs. Okay. So we're going to find that. As you can see, there is a heightmap builder.cs. We don't want that. The meta files are for Unity. That's what Unity recognizes. But we want this heightmap.cs file. So same thing. It says to remove this execute in edit mode. Execute in edit mode means that you are executing that script only in Unity. So if you have a DLL that references it, typically it will basically explode if you try to open up a scene that might reference the script later on. And luckily, it does mention this in the Valheim Unity project setup. So we are going to delete this. It says remove the annotation from the class and save the file. That's all you have to do in this one. So very quick, easy step that I missed. Now, the next step says in your scripts folder, search for terminal.cs. This is one of the latest ones that they added. They went from the console to the terminal CS, and they split it out. So console.cs does still exist. Terminal is just the new class that actually makes commands run as commands. So, as you can see, we can see all this nice code, super fancy. It says, open the file, remove all occurrences of count left parenthesis. It says the function, as well as the 3 of its usages. So same thing, Control F, we're going to type in count left parenthesis. So it says the function as well and the 3 usages. So we have 1 out of 4, as you can see, so that still is accurate. So the function itself, we are going to say, peace out, Girl Scout, and delete that. And then the count here, all occurrences account. So basically, just delete this or comment it out at least. But I'm going to delete. So we don't want them counting birds for some reason, or character level. Why not? I actually don't know why we're doing this. This is probably something that someone figured out in the long run that helps fix some issues. So it says delete all of this and save. So I'm going to save that file and close it out. And it says open the project. So we are already on the Unity step. This is a very good step to be on because this is where things hopefully will be easy breezy. We get a nice GUI for pretty much everything. I did not mean to hit that. So I happen to have Unity Hub already installed. I have plenty of old asset rips of the game. And what I mentioned by everything says Valheim, right, is you can see all the paths are different on these, but they all say Valheim. There's a reason why I changed the name of my folder. So now it says Open Unity Hub, click Add, select the Valheim folder, and set the project's Unity version to 4.3.1. So it's basically this right here, 2019 4.3.1. This is actually one of my later rips of the game. This is the Abomination U-Tiny. This is when they added the Abomination to the physical game. I got it in there. There was tons of errors, and hopefully this will kind of help us fix those. So I'm going to click Add. And as you can see, it's already targeting that old folder. I'm going to open up a new file explorer, and I'm going to jump straight to where I set it. It tells you to open the Valheim folder, but we renamed that. So I'm going to go here, copy this path. I'm going to paste my path in here, fancy thing that we keep doing, and click Select Folder. So as you can see, it says HH Azu Valheim. So this is why I said rename your folder. It will make it unique. Now, we need to change the Unity version. If you do not have the 2019 4.31.f1 choice here, you need to go to Installs and make sure you click Add and choose the 2019 4.3.1 or 4.31 F1 version here. Make sure it installs and completes. Once you get to that point, you're able to choose it here, which mine is down here. It moved on me. So we are going to choose that particular version, and it says now that we can click Add, and it says Open the project. So we're going to go ahead and click on the project. It's going to ask for this upgrade. The guide does say, hey, I want to make a backup. Go ahead. Let's go ahead. Let's do everything. So Unity will take a while on this process. I will pause the video and let the people in the Discord chat catch up, and hopefully let you guys have a breather as well. All right, so once your Unity project has downloaded, installed, and opened, you're going to have one error potentially and a couple warnings. What you would want to do is click Console and Clear. Those warnings don't really matter. If you did not follow the deletion of the files correctly, you're probably going to have a lot more errors. So now, our next step is to go ahead and fix our shaders. Something that the guide doesn't tell you is how to also let your shaders work with Vulkan, and how you can actually upgrade your project as well. So what it tells us to do is go to Edit, Project Settings, which is where I'm going to go, because we're going to end up in the same area. It says then click on Graphics. In this case, let me find it. Oh, I'm already on it. Okay. And it says find built-in shader settings. Okay, that should just be a quick little scroll down. Right now it's set to custom shader. You actually want to switch this to built-in shader. Now, the thing that the guide does not tell you is, hey, how do I make this compatible with Vulkan, right? So we're going to go actually into Player, and if you're gonna notice that it says Auto Graphics API for Windows, for Mac, for Linux. You're going to uncheck the Windows portion. Most people use Direct 3D 11. We're going to say this little plus symbol here. We're going to add Vulkan. So once that gets done, and this audio clip, this is actually the error that we got. That now makes your project compatible with Vulkan. So that means that anything that anyone plays your game on, if they had Vulkan and you did not set this setting, if they go and hit something, most likely they're going to get pink crazy particles, basically saying that the shader's messed up. This is how you fix that. The Unity guide that we are referencing, which will be, once again, included in the description, does not mention this. Another thing is your color space. I do recommend switching it to linear. It gives it more rich colors, and they're slightly less transparent. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right. And that is now switched to linear. So we are done here. We've made compatibility with Vulkan. We've also made compatibility with our shaders. So we're going to get the same error during import of audio clip assets, audio clip water boil loop. Just clear that out. So that's probably going to keep popping up if we have issues with the file eventually. We probably couldn't just remove it unless you're actually using it inside of an asset. So if that causes us issues later, we'll get rid of it. So now it says go to assets/materials. Okay. Most of these look like they're already kind of fixed. Most of the shaders, it looks like everything's a-okay, but it does say go ahead and select them all, which I just did a Control-A in here. And we're going to right up in the top right-hand side, switch to standard. That should be for 1,019 materials. They all get switched to standard. And now we have all of our shaders. Everything's in here. Nothing's pink. Nothing's like really super messed up. So hopefully that fixed everything for us. And if we have any other issues later, maybe we create a custom visual effect that we might have an issue with. Just play around with the shaders till it looks about right. So it says select every material here, do all this. So in the scene up at the top, it says to click right next to this little stack with the little star on it. Okay, and disable post processings. It says to do this because Valheim actually doesn't support precompiled shaders, so we're going to delete that out. Now, we're pretty much ready to do anything that we need to do in Unity. We have a complete brand new Unity asset rip of the game with all of our stuff. And to guarantee, one of the latest things that Valheim added was the abomination. So I'm going to type in abomination. Okay. We have the physical enemy. We have the trophy asset or the mesh itself. We have the shader. We can see all that. And you can just double click and open it. You can see all the colliders. You can see every single thing that this particular thing does. All the scripts looks like they are referenced correctly. So some additional things that the guide doesn't tell you, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you in this step, is how to configure Unity even further. Okay, one of the things that we talked about was the Vulkan stuff. A few other things that we should talk about is getting packages that'll help you, packages that will assist you in actually exporting an asset bundle, right? So one of the first things that I do is I right-click on this assets folder on the left-hand side. I click Create Folder, okay? And I'm going to call this folder Custom Items. So this is anything that I am going to make. Anything that I am going to make is going to go in this folder, and of course you can separate it out however you want, whatever folder names, whatever, materials, textures, scripts, whatever you want to do it here. This keeps everything away from the vanilla assets, keeps you organized, and allows you to export things easily. So what we first want to do is grab a very good script recovery tool called NG Script Recovery, and I believe I've shown that in a few other Odin Plus videos. But this is on the Asset Store, so you're going to click on the Asset Store tab here. We're going to type in, and it looks like it remembers me, so we're going to go to the NG missing script. I'm going to click it, and I'm going to say import. It is free, does not cost you anything, but it will save your life if something happens, and for whatever reason a script randomly just goes missing. It forgets the reference. Maybe you moved a file and messed something up. This will help you. So we want everything that this gives us. Just go ahead and click import. And that might take a second. Looks like it's taking a little bit. So we have it in here. What this does is, again, if a reference gets broken on a particular script, hopefully this will resolve it. If it doesn't, you might actually have to manually recreate that script and reconfigure it. So in the window at the top, we're going to click window at the top again. We're going to click on Package Manager. We're going to grab the thing that's going to allow us to export our assets back into the game. It is called Asset Bundle Browser. I happen to see it immediately in this particular drop down. You want this. You're going to click Install. As far as I know, there's other ways that you can do this to export your assets, but this is the easiest way. All you have to do is define an asset bundle name, and it drops it in the same folder every time for each one that you rip out. So we're going to get warnings. Most warnings in Unity you can ignore for the most part. There are some that you might not be able to ignore. They could pop up in the BepNex window later. Usually that deals with meshes, being too complex or so on and so forth. If you create a custom asset, the idea is to make these a little bit low poly, not have that many vertices, so on. So now you're basically ready to get started. You can clone any asset in the game that you want, create a copy of it, modify it, change it, pull it into the game. So I'm going to go ahead and do this as an example to show you how Asset Bundle Browser works and how you can create an asset bundle and potentially where to find it. One of the cool shortcuts in Unity here is actually right-click and show in Explorer. This will always take you to wherever you have your Valheim modding. In my case, Valheim modding HH as Valheim that we set up in assets. We see the custom items folder here. So if we were to import our own stuff, we can see it in a file explorer type format. You can drag and drop items in here, prefabs, FBXs, things from Sketchfab. Drop it all in here. This Unity will hopefully resolve that for you. If it doesn't, just simply delete it and remove it. As I said, this is going to be your folder that you're going to mess around with your modding stuff. So this will be completely separate from vanilla and hopefully not break anything. So I'm going to clone a guardstone, aka a ward, simply because that's what I do. I'm kind of the wards guy. So shortcut for that is you're going to click the prefab, you're going to hit Control plus D, and if you notice, it created a duplicate for us. It does look a little bit different as far as the shader goes, and that's just because this is a direct rip from the game, and we actually haven't opened this prefab, so it won't look like this. But since the duplicate had time to resolve itself, it does change a little bit. You can notice that the colors seem a little bit more rich. They're not dark, they're not messed up, kind of like it initially comes into the game. So I'm going to then click and drag to custom items. And if you notice it changes my folder, it means that there's something in it. So we have a nice guardstone. Double click to open it up. And let's say that this is what we wanted to export to the game, right? We have a few things that we need to configure. Obviously, it cannot and probably should not have the same names and the same descriptions and so on in each of the scripts as the default item. Yes, it's a-okay to have, but I do recommend changing this. Valheim does have its own naming convention for pieces or for items. Usually it's $piece for piece, $item for items, and most of the time there is going to be some sort of actual prefab name listed inside of that. So item, sword iron, or piece, guardstone, so on. The scripts do look different on the right-hand side compared to most. As we go through, you can go and see that they use, private area script. They have all the default values. Everything came in a-okay, just fine for us, right? So let's say, as I mentioned, this is what we wanted to pull in the game. Ideally, you would want to change all these values. For sake of argument, I'm not going to. I'm just going to call this, test ward or something. And hit enter. It's going to give you a hey, are you sure you want to rename this? This is going to change everything about this particular prefab. It's a-okay because this is a duplicated prefab. We did not touch anything vanilla. We created a duplicate. It's essentially its own item. So if you notice, the icon is referencing this icon inside of the default sprite map of the game. The default sprite map, if you compress it, if you edit it at all, anytime anyone loads your mod, this will change the physical asset of the game as far as the icons go. So all of your icons, if you choose to compress this under any circumstances, everything will look like a potato. It looks like it went through a cheese grater, spit out some blurry mess, or someone didn't wear glasses and then, created an icon. So that is a no-no. You don't really want to reference this at all if you can help it. If you do reference it, don't compress it. Don't change much about it. Just reference it. Okay? A lot of assets that you bring into the game are going to reference this. I do recommend duplicating the icons, duplicating the normal maps, duplicating anything that you possibly can, and then compressing those and pulling it into your asset. So what I mean is, let's say we wanted this guardstone icon. Go here and click it, duplicate it. You see it's in PNG format. Most likely, when you duplicate it, it's going to turn it into an asset format. Pull it back into asset bundle, asset ripper, GUI, re-rip it, get the PNG, export it to your custom items folder. You're good to go. Okay. This isn't just for games. This isn't just for anything. You can rip pretty much any asset, hence asset ripper name. So I'm going to close it out. I don't really care too much about this at the moment. But let's say that we wanted to change it. We would say test guardstone here. Test guardstone. Well, if it didn't undo that. Test guardstone description, keeping the naming convention of the way Valheim works the same. Most modders are going to keep it the same simply because of it's easier. If we know that pretty much every modder is going to make something with the same naming convention, keeping it as close to vanilla as possible is always the best because vanilla items work the way vanilla items work. One thing that I learned late in modding at this point is your name and your description matter. The underscores matter. Do not put spaces. Same thing in the prefab name. And prefab name is what we changed ours to up here as test ward. Prefab names and item names should never have spaces. Part of the reason why is because any mod that references the console in-game to spawn things, any mod that uses, let's say, we create an item that has a particular requirement, and that requirement is something that is custom. If you have a space in that name, vanilla Valheim actually can't reference that. It has no clue. It doesn't have code in there that helps out with spaces. I don't know if it's a Unity thing. Valheim is the first game that I've modded, but I do know that it will explode in Valheim if you do this. Okay? So always use underscores in your prefab names. Always use underscores in your names and your descriptions. Okay? Scroll down to the bottom, at least on this particular one, and we have piece guardstone here as another reference. I'm going to go ahead and change this. So let's say that's all the changes we wanted. We just wanted our own ward in the game. We didn't change the radius. We didn't change the flash effects, which you can open. A good shortcut to know is holding down Alt and clicking. So when you do that, it actually instantly collapses the parent and all of the children inside of it. So if you have a really big script, you can just hit Alt-click and then click again, and it'll actually collapse everything for you. Or, the sections within the script, same thing. Okay, if I Alt-click that, it opens everything for me. Alt-click that, opens everything for me. I didn't have to go in here and click, this drop-down arrow and this drop-down arrow. So, good shortcut, good thing to know. All right, let's get it down to the nitty-gritty where, hey, we want to pull this in the game. How do we do that? How do we create an asset bundle? The asset bundle browser thing that we made just a little while ago, that we downloaded and pulled into our packages, that's our friend. It's going to help us. So when you click your prefab here, we're done. We've edited what we wanted. We're ready to pull into the game. You'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner, there is an asset bundle. If you click that, you're going to say new. Sometimes this bugs out. You can start typing and nothing will happen. Don't freak out. Just click back in your custom items folder, click back on the prefab, click asset bundle again, click new, click inside the box, and start typing, and it should work. It's a weird bug. I don't know why it's there, but it happens. Even if you click inside the box the first time, sometimes it will still not work. That's how you fix it. Okay? Don't freak out. So name it whatever you want. You can call it test wards, because maybe I want to add more than one. I hit enter. We now have a fresh asset bundle. So this is brand new. This is the only item that's in it. But anything that this item references, whether that is the sprite map, icons, in this case, the requirements on this particular piece would be Circling Cores, Grey Dwarf Eyes, and Finewood. It would reference all of those, all of the materials, all of the icons as well associated with those items. So keep that in mind when you're trying to not reference the sprite map. If you can help it, don't, because that alone is 4 megabytes worth in size. That's pretty sizable for a mod. If you make everything custom, you can actually make your mod maybe half, especially if you're only adding one item, maybe half a megabyte maximum with a ton of code attached to one item. So now we're ready to pull this in the game. We want to create our asset bundle. We've referenced the asset bundle in the bottom right. We created a new one. We called it test words. You're going to click window at the top, scroll down to asset bundle browser. Click that. So we can see our test words bundle here. You can actually see the rough size that we're going to get is 48.9 megabytes. We can filter and see what the biggest stuff is, right? So Hugin Fly Away was mine, 7.2 megabytes for this particular animation. Down here it says these are auto-included in bundles due to parents. Test word, ravens, and raven. Easy way that I could get rid of this is I can go back into the ward itself and delete this guide point. This guide point is referencing the ravens prefab, which references that animation, which references other stuff. The guide point script, all that does, if added to a particular object, is adds it to a tutorial. So you can create text. They have it all referenced here, tutorial guardstone text, topic, labels, so on. This is basically, hey, you're new to the game. If you ever build a ward, you'll see the raven actually lands on this and says, hey, you built a ward, and gives you like some kind of tutorial. You can delete that. That alone will reduce that size quite a bit. So just for purpose sake, I'm going to hit delete here. I'm going to go back to window, asset bundle browser, click on my asset, and if you notice, from 48 plus megabytes now down to 7.3 megabytes just by deleting that one thing. And that's because it references a ton of prefabs and a ton of custom animations. But because we didn't change anything as far as the sprites go, we now have it here referenced. We have all of our sounds referenced. We have all of our meshes, materials, everything. You can click build. You can click advanced settings. Force rebuild, you can use that if you're having any kind of issues. Maybe you want to guarantee that this is a fresh build of your asset. You can click that. What that does is actually rebuilds every single asset bundle that you've made up to this point. Okay? So if you don't and you don't care, you only want to compile any changes that you might have made. Let's say you've already created this asset bundle once. You want to leave that unchecked, potentially. Once you have built your asset bundle one time, at least one time, it'll be much faster even if you click force rebuild. Okay? The first time that you build an asset bundle is always the slowest. And I mean, sometimes it can take 5 minutes. So just be careful with that. It depends on how much you add. Add one item. If you're trying to make like a big mod, add one item, compile it first, and then go back through and try and build it again. So we've configured Unity, we've set up Unity, we've got to this point and we're ready to build. I'm actually going to stop this video, and continue into another video of creating your asset, how to make it, how to get one set up, and how to actually start and pull it into the game using one of our mod templates from Odin Plus.